Welcome to the Dog Psychology Podcast with Todd and Art.
All right, here we are once again, with the Dog Psychology Podcast with Todd and Art. And actually, you know what we've never really done, Todd? We've never said, like, Todd of Pack Life OC, Orange.
Oh, yeah, no shit, huh?
Yeah, so let's reintroduce yourself.
Oh, yeah, my name is Todd Langston. Good morning. It's ocpaclife.com.
Also known as Todd Langston on Instagram.
That's right.
I'm Art Ortiz of Dog Fit Dallas, and I am also Dog Fit Dallas on Instagram. I do have my own personal Instagram, but it's kind of like just for the people that I know.
Yeah.
I really don't give that one away. That's a private account. But
do you post private stuff? Do you post many private things on Instagram?
My personal one, yeah.
Do you?
Oh, you're talking about
just in general? One? Are you somebody that like takes pictures of your family and posts it on social media and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Do you?
I mean, the stuff that like we do, like we're in Germany, I did our vacation stuff, you know, little things that we've done here and there. Yeah, I post that stuff, but it's mainly for my family because it's on my personal one. It's just people that I know, people that I've met, and I don't like accept anybody.
My daughter hates it. I have to be careful on my my professional account because her friends follow me. Yeah, her teachers follow me. You know what I mean? It's really kind of weird because these people that are in her life follow me. So I have to watch. Like I wanted to do a post on Hercules eating weed, and I'm like,
yeah,
I'm not sure about that. So
and now they're gonna be listening to you on the podcast. So there you go.
So far, I don't think she's gonna listen to me. She hears me too much. I don't think she's gonna go out of her way for that. So
all right, so we're gonna be talking about things, dogs that we're currently working on. I had something happen to me today, or actually over the weekend, that has allowed things to come full circle in a way. I had a client, she's actually my very first client. Her name was Janet, and Janet was seeing this therapist. Okay, and I was at the time, 12 years ago, I was like, I need something, I need help, right? And so she's like, hey, you should talk to Amy, and so she put me in contact with Amy, and Amy really helped me out. One of the things that I recall her saying was, we were talking about like my divorce and stuff like that. And so she was like, how did that make you feel? That's a common question we ask our clients, right?
How did it make
you feel? And so I remember I shared with her that I was very angry with the situation. And she's like, well, you have to understand that anger is really not the prime emotion that you should be targeting. There's something deeper rooted that is causing or is the outcome of anger, right? So it's finding out what that emotion is. And so I had to really, and I kind of sat with that, like, till I saw her the next week, and I finally figured out what it was. And I went back and I told her, I'm like, hey, I found out what it was. And she's like, that's exactly what I wanted you to do. But what she didn't know at the time was that I had related that to dogs, because when we talk about like aggression, it's not really the aggression that we're really after. It's the more deep rooted issues that we're really, trying to go after. And that's what we do for a living. And so I hadn't talked to her in probably 10 years or so. I hadn't talked to her in 10 years. Anyway, she reached out to me and she's like, hey, my daughter needs help with her dog. She's moving to Dallas, blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, wow, this is a full kind of strange, right? And I shared with her that story about how she helped me out with that one thing. And she's like, oh, that's amazing. But the full circle moment thing is that I have another client that I've been working for years. And this woman has helped me out just on the personal side of my business. And she's kind of like, when it comes to financial stuff, I always bring stuff to her. And she's like, she's a numbers person, right? So she's like, oh, this. And she's kind of like a mentor to me. I didn't know that she, and I've known this woman for years, that my therapist was her therapist as well. And so
you can't know it. It's not like they're going to tell you. Do you want to know who else my clients are? My patients?
And so that when I'm talking to this woman who's my therapist, when I was having a conversation with her on Monday, and she was like, Art, I just also want to say one thing. I was like, what you've done for Suzanne is absolutely amazing. What you've done for her and her animals. Because I always talk about that connection piece, how we were really connected to the dog. And like she had a dog that passed away. And I went over to her house and I kind of just talked about grief and all this stuff. And, for a therapist to say thank you for what you did, that was kind of like, that was awesome. But this is where that's not the end of the story. It's not very much longer because I know it's getting drawn out. But I had another woman on the same day, which is Monday, had someone else. And this woman's name is Leslie. Well, Leslie knows Janet that introduced me to the therapist, right? So it's like this I was like, I had trained her dog 10 years ago also.
Yeah.
So all these people from 10 years ago are coming back.
Crazy, right?
Got new dogs or whatever it is, and so they're like, Art, and by the way, they actually named the woman, Leslie, had named her dog Art. And
that's a pretty solid compliment, maybe,
well,
but.
Well, so I asked her, and she goes, and don't worry,
because the dog was a pussy?
No. No, she goes, don't worry, Art, we didn't name it because of you. We actually, because there's a lot of artists in the family, we decided to, add another artist to our family. And I was like, well, now I'm kind of offended because I was hoping you would name it after me, but it is what it is.
That's funny.
So
did you see? Go ahead.
That's what I got going on this week, but I also have some other dogs that I worked with that we can talk about. But yeah.
Do you see where Jimmy Kimmel adopted a dog named Todd?
No, that's hilarious.
And then he talked about, he's like, dude, we like the name. I don't want to change the name. I'm like, that's hilarious. A dog named Todd. Those things are weird, where things come full circle like that, where this person is connected to this person and connected to this person. You didn't even know it. And there's some thread that binds them all. Yeah.
Dude, I have like 4 or 5 of those stories, by the way.
Well, you very much keep in touch, and there's a lot, there's a very connected side to you. I can't relate to.
Well, when we went to Puerto Rico with Caesar, I shared the story with you. I won't go again too long. But when we were in Puerto Rico with Heidel, and there was a woman that we met in Puerto Rico, and she knew one of my clients and said, hey, I know one of your clients in Dallas. Her name's Jackie, blah, blah. And she said her first and last name. And Heidel looks over and he goes, wait a minute, I went to high school with her. And we're in Puerto Rico. Heidel was living in LA at the time. I'm living in Texas. We happen to know the same. It's just a small world, dude.
Well, how about when Christine and Michael, remember at the last?
Yeah, they went to the same high school. That was
high school together, and they knew each other in high school, and they didn't know it. So this was we're going through photos and talk about nostalgia, dude. We pulled out boxes of photos and we spread them out everywhere. And there's this photo, and my wife shows me, what is this? And it's me crawling through a window, and you can't really tell where it's at. You can tell there's like a kitchen, and I'm like, oh yeah. So I go, that's in Costa Rica. Like, I'm like 23, 24. And they said we could stay there, but we had to crawl in through the window. And I go, babe, do you remember when we were there before? Because we went to Costa Rica, and somebody was hooking me up, and I had to drive to this house. It was the same fucking place.
That's weird.
So this photo I have of me being like 23, 24, climbing in through a window. When we went back to Costa Rica, I went to that same place to get a little nug. How's that?
I'm glad Jennifer doesn't listen to the podcast.
So that was, it was interesting. No, it's not her I'm looking for. It's my daughter. So, yeah. So I have an idea for the podcast today, which is to go over our appointments. I know a lot of trainers follow us just to give them ideas and maybe how we break down and strategize. At this point, as I hear people talk to me, so I'll sit out on my front patio and I'll watch people pull into my driveway. So I do all my appointments at my place, and I watch people pull into my driveway. And by the time they get out of the car and they walk up to the patio, you can tell why they're there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so by the time they get there, so you'll see things like they'll be sitting one person will be sitting in the back seat with the dog and one person sitting in the front seat driving.
Right.
That type of stuff. And the way they get the dog out of the car, the way that the first step they take with the dog. I don't think people realize how much you can see in that small thing. Cause I think behavior is pretty predictable based on what you do, and you're not doing anything special right here. And so that's how I approach it. And so I think breaking down some of these appointments, and I actually have been taking a lot of video for a couple of reasons. One, I want it. And the other one is I've been letting owners video certain aspects of the appointment so they have it. And I'm usually doing it when I'm teaching the walk. I'm usually doing it when I'm teaching boundaries. I'm doing it when I'm teaching a correction. And I'm like, well, I take that back. Not often with a correction. And I'm like, here, so you can have it again, so you can see it. But I get the footage. So I tape it and then I send it to them. So that's what you'll see. And then I have another one, a nervous dog, which is really good to look at because you can see this dog is almost autistic. So it's going to be interesting for you to see it, Art, because I want you to assess it, because you're probably going to see the same thing I saw. Now it's different because he's a black dog and it's hard to see sometimes because it's, you can't always see the features, but it'd be interesting to see your take on it. And then I have another younger dog that rolled up, and it's one of these cases that for a fact, almost without a doubt, this dog is going to bite one of the members of the family if they don't change things, you know, and keep going down the same path. You can see imminent endings to some of these situations. And, you know, these little crystal ball puppies, I think puppies are so open with what they're going to be doing later that it's easy for us to help owners cut these things off before they happen, as long as they can trust our information and start to do it.
Okay. All right. So we want to, you want me to share? Which one do you want to share first?
You know, it doesn't matter. Whichever one's easier to bring up first.
Okay. Let's do the one. Whoa, I don't know which one this is. How do I make it move sideways?
Let me see.
Hang on.
Okay, so the one on the left is you can do the first. That one is the puppy.
So you want to do this one first?
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
Because it's actually, you're going to see a lot. There's so many things here that you can see.
Okay. I'm trying to rotate it because if it was filmed in vertical and it's not letting me make it upright. Why not? And by the way, I know we got some feedback about it's not showing on the videos. What we're going to try to do is, and what we've done in the past is we actually put the video over the slow video or whatever and so we're trying to figure out how we're going to actually make that work where it's not delayed. Okay, let me see what happens here.
Yeah, we'll get the video working better for you guys because I really want to start using a little bit more detail in the video. Do you want me to just hold it up, Art?
So what I'll do, Todd, is I'm just going to play it, and you've already seen it. I haven't seen it, but what'll happen is we'll just play it over the. Adam will put it on top of everything, so it plays normally on the video, and I'll send these videos to Adam.
Watch the space, which direction he's going. Look, who's moving who?
Wow, that's impressive.
Okay, so now this little playful thing will get ignored.
You both have trained for that too, right?
No, they're not trained. This is, see? Now look, he's going at him now. He's like, hey dude, you're not gonna come in my house and act like that towards me.
That's good. So cute.
Don't touch him. Nobody gets pet right now, okay?
Oh, okay.
Let this happen.
How old is he or she?
Do me a favor.
No talking?
No recording.
Oh,
No recording. No. No, I'm gonna step in and help out because he's.
yes, he's...
Watch. So this is what you guys will do. Okay, come in, step on the leash. I got you, Herc. You step on the leash. I got it. Shh. Right there. Now I can't get away. You can't keep going. That poke kind of slowed him down, right? Now my foot's on the leash. That's from earlier. Herky was doing that. He just doesn't have the energy I have to do it. That's what he was trying to do. Okay, so everything Hercules was doing was regulating that nonsense. But since I had the practice from earlier, I have a better energy because he's strong, but he doesn't have the physicality anymore. Make sense?
Okay.
You see it?
Oh, yeah. So
tell me what you think.
That's a really good video. So from the very beginning, so what I see is you got it's a young dog, it looks like. That just doesn't have, doesn't have any self-control, impulse control, just kind of all over the place. Very typical of those doodles, by the way, to be like that. And then Hercules, that's Hercules, right?
Oh, he wasn't a doodle. That is a Portuguese.
Oh, Portuguese water dog. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Which is worse because those dogs do have a little bit more of an edge to them in a sense. Yeah. Like, they're not coming from that labby point of view. There's a little bit more intensity to those dogs.
Yep. Yeah. Some of them I worked with, I actually like them. Not that I could have one, but the ones I worked with, I really liked. However, they do come in with that happy, like over the top, like high energy, happy go lucky. Hey,
Art, on your screen, when you look at me, do you see what looks like a little camera dial right in the middle of it?
No.
Huh. Wonder where that's from. Expand frame. What's that even mean? Whatever.
All right. So, and then I see Hercules. I love the way Hercules just came in.
Did
And
you see how forward he walked up to him?
yeah, but it didn't. It was all psychological in the beginning.
Totally. He is such a good dog. So in all the dogs you've ever had, for the most part, you've probably had to manipulate behaviors here and there.
Yeah.
So that is the only dog I've ever owned that I've never had to change anything. He's exactly the way he was the day I got him. He's so perfect. If he was 65 pounds, I could have a web page with just him. Because look what he just did, dude. But he doesn't have the size to back up his attitude.
100%. Right.
And that's what that dog figured out. After about four, the dog figured it out. So that's why I have to step in and help him out.
Yeah. And also it's important to know, because people could have a dog like Hercules who's trying to address, because no one else is doing it, right? And you're allowing it to happen because these owners, or owners in general, I should say, allow a lot more things to happen when they shouldn't. And so if people were to see Hercules and say, "Oh my God, my dog is aggressive. What am I going to do?" When he's not aggressive, he's actually trying
he
to
never touched him. He didn't bite him. Yeah.
But people would also try to correct that out of the dog.
Did you hear, if you go back and play it again at the beginning, did you hear, I think in about 5 or 6 seconds in, the guy goes, "That's impressive." Now, the reason I bring a dog like Hercules for that dog is that those owners had zero concept of boundaries. And what I like to show people, because the thing that people miss sometimes is the innate way dogs are doing it. So I'll say, I'm going to bring a dog out, and what you're going to see is this space thing. I go, your dog is going to try to come in and do to my dogs what they do to you, but my dogs are going to handle it different. They're all going to give something different. And I have another video with the way Blue handles it's totally different, but Hercules has always been like that, where he'll come in and just go, he just puffs up. So the conversation we were having last week about dominance, enter Hercules, enter the mix. Right. Yeah. That is dominance. Yeah. And it's natural. It flows off of him. He's a beautiful dog. He carries himself that way. He'll let dogs meet him. But that was just a fully going in and saying, I don't like your energy off the get-go. Now, what was interesting about the case was this. Have you ever had a case? And I was trying to find a way to really word it, where what I ended up telling them is I go, "Do you watch Seinfeld?" And they're like, "Yeah." I go, "Did you see the episode where George figures out that the best thing for him to do is the opposite of everything he thinks? Yeah. And when he does, he's successful?" I said, that needs to be you guys. Because what they were doing, they were literally, the woman was the worst. As she was, and this is, I think, the worst case scenario in a dynamic. She was emotional because she was in grief due to the loss of a family member in the last couple of months. She was compliant in the sense that she created every behavior you saw by encouraging excitement, interacting with excitement, doing all these things with excitement, and then trying to extinguish the excitement she was creating ineffectively. So not only would she create the excitement, then she turned into the firefighter to extinguish the excitement, but did it 180 degrees wrong, so that she intensely reinforced everything she was trying to do. To the point where the dog wouldn't go in the car, and we got the dog in the car, used stairs, and then I moved the stairs and got the dog in the car. And when the lady was first doing it, she couldn't see how what she was doing was affecting the dog. So she would be like, "Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on." And she would use food. And I'm like, okay, this is a back and forth. You're going to offer something, and then we have to see what the dog offers you. And then you're going to offer something and see what the dog offers you. I go, but there was zero ability for that. So what was happening is she would get stuck in these loops of creating and reinforcing the absolute worst side of her dog. And it got to the point where the intensity level of the avoidance and the excitement directed towards them, that was when I was saying in the conversation, I go, you are going to get bit. So what you see with Hercules and that dog is ultimately what the dog was doing with the owners, is that the dog has just enough push. And since nobody in that dog's life outside of what you saw me do has ever followed through, their attempt to stop the dog, just like with Hercules, amplifies it. Do you know what I mean? And so their efforts at correcting the behavior just make the dog go, "Fuck you, you can't do anything." And you can see that it was starting to do it with Hercules, which is why I step in. I don't want Hercules to have to feel that. And that became this cycle. The dude understood it. The woman didn't. During the appointment, I could tell the woman had no grasp of it, because if there's a certain mind-body connection, if I don't see, I think people live in avoidance more than people realize. right? So they're in some type of coping mechanism of avoidance, meaning they're not taking information in for anything, themselves, the dog, nothing. It's a coping mechanism. And those people are infinitely the hardest for me to help. I can't get through that mindset of inability to receive information, right? To me, it's like they have a shield. It's a coping skill, or a coping mechanism.
Well, I like what you said about how she caused it and then try to put out. It's almost like you're the arson and the firefighter, but
correct.
not the ability to put out the fire.
And you're not knowing that you're doing either.
And you're making the flame keep going more and more.
Yeah, real bad, and especially as a puppy like that.
You know, I try to have some grace for some people sometimes, because I can tell you that, you know, like when I'm doing jujitsu, and, you know, they have professors out there showing us like the move of the day, what we're going to be doing. And I look at it like, wow, that looks super easy. But then again, he's been doing it. He's been rehearsing this over and over and over the span of like 30, 40 years. Right. So, you know, when we tell clients to do something, it's hard for them. Like sometimes it does take a bite for them to like, shit, maybe I do need to change, you know?
Yeah, I like how you said that, grace. I think that's a really a good word to put it. And between the two of us, you're infinitely better at grace than myself. But people ask me all the time, you know, as trainers, you get this a lot too, is like, how come it doesn't bother you if they're not getting it at times? Like, how, you know, you get that, where trainers get super upset that the owners aren't doing the work. And I go, because I truly believe that in every appointment and every interaction, I give it 110%. I come at it from every conceivable direction I can, from my understanding of sharing information, from my understanding and ability of teaching. I'm going to exhaust no option. And when I'm done with that, I can feel good because I've done that. And I can help a person like that, but that person needs help, I think, in ways beyond me, unless for whatever reason they think that my ability to help their human behavior is strong enough. But that's an interesting energy when you come across it. And what I also find is that people that live in that existence have dogs who are extreme in their fight and flight, because psychologically, even with humans, if you're living in that coping mechanism of avoidance, the only thing you'll feel is fight and flight, because you're not going into acceptance, right? You're not ever finding that peace of just being cool with the moment. So you do fight flight behaviors, and then you go back to ignore, and you never know you're an ignore when you're coping. And the dogs end up doing that for the people. You know, the people that live in that mindset, the dogs are extreme in their fight and flight, because the human can't see it. They can't process it enough to get them out of it.
Well, it's like the saying, you know, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you practice avoiding behavior with other areas, and I do that too, by the way. I'm really guilty of that. I'll be honest with you. Like, I practice avoidance, and I've kind of known that about myself. I'm trying to be a lot better about being head on with certain things that I need to address. But you know, how you do one thing is how you do a lot of things. Like today, I told Anne, I was like, I'm going to go get in the cold plunge, but I was like really avoiding it. I was trying to find, I knew I needed to do it, and I was finding everything to do so that I could avoid doing it.
There's I forget who, I've seen a few people talk about it, that if you're trying to beat that, is you have and I've heard different numbers. What do they say? 68% of all statistics are made up on the spot.
Yeah.
Is between 3 and 5 seconds. So when you say, hey, you know, I want to go get in the cold plunge, you have 3 to 5 seconds. If you don't move to do that, you won't. Your brain's going to go back and do what it does to inhibit your ability. It's very clever that way. So if you can say, hey, I'm going to, and then inside of 3 seconds, you make it work. And if you don't make it work, just accept that you won't. You know what I mean? Just accept that you're not going to make it work, and then wait for the next moment that you can. In that video too, what I want to go back to the people that were watching, the correction that I gave, because that really was what, in my opinion, what the owners need to figure out, is how to give a correction that's able to fully, you know, kind of, and bring him down. And what that actually stemmed from is at the beginning of the appointment, about 10 minutes in, I'll typically ignore everything as long as I can. And this dog was just relentlessly barking at something. And so I moved in real kind of surprising. I went, boom, I poked it. So I forget where I did it. And went like that. And then I spent like 2 minutes, maybe 2.5 minutes, waiting for the dog to calm down and relax. And then, you know, he would look this way and look this way and look this way and look this way. And then finally he looked at me and settled, and I did the whole thing. And so when that happened, and you heard me say it in the video, I go, and that was from earlier. So I wouldn't have been able to pull that off like that if that was my first time. it would have taken the full 2 minutes. But since I had an imprint from earlier, and the first correction I did was a well done correction, it carried over. And I think that's the thing. If you're a trainer, if you're doing it to your own dogs, or you're teaching others, if you don't see that relaxation, especially the first time you do it, you miss something. You miss something. And I like using a leash for owners to go in and be able to physically stop the dog's motion.
Yeah.
Right. Put your foot on the leash. I think you did a post on that today or yesterday using the leash. Yeah. And I said something. I was like, oh, my dog doesn't have a leash.
Oh my God. I get that all the time, by the way. I knew when you said it. I knew why you were saying it, because that's what everyone else says it. And people have this look like, I can leave a leash inside the house. I'm like, as long as you're there.
Yeah.
You can have a leash on. I always try to make that clear. Don't leave the dog unattended with the leash on, but you have to say these things because people will leave a leash on all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
There's also leashes that you can get with, I tell people, like, cut the handle off so it doesn't catch on anything either.
Absolutely. I've done the same thing. I think that's the best way to do it. And it doesn't matter what it's hooked on. I don't like slip leads for dragging around for the very fact they can cause the most issue if they got caught on something. I don't care what it's hooked on. I just think people need the access to physically stop a dog without talking or grabbing them. And in a true discipline, I may have talked about this before. Jordan Peterson talks about, there's a short clip where he describes correcting a child. It is so perfect on what we do. He goes, so if you have to teach your kids no, because you use it for discretion and so you can give them freedom. He goes, so what you do is they're doing something wrong. You go up and you say no. And he was talking about, and you grab them by the wrist, or you grab them by, he says the leg. I'm like, it's awkward. And you grab them by the wrist and you stay there. He goes, they're going to cry. They're going to get worked up. You stay there until they stop. They calm down. They settle down. You take your hand off and you walk away. He goes, do that 10 times. He goes, after 10 times, you're going to say no, but you don't have to touch them. And they're going to cry. Wait for them to stop. Walk away. After 10 times, when you say no, they're going to stop. They're going to relax and you're going to walk away. And he goes, and use it with discretion. And I'm like, fuck, dude, Jordan Peterson can even talk about dog corrections in a perfect way.
Yeah, I had something with River the other day. He's like, I can't remember what it was, but I basically told him that he couldn't do something. And he was like, well, why? Why? Because that's what he does. And I'm like, because it's my job as the parent to make decisions based off what I believe is best for you. And he's like, but I don't like that. I go, I understand you don't like that, but it is I'm the parent. I make the decisions here. Anne was there and she's like, we're the parent. It's our job because we feel that this is what's best for you. I have to make decisions, not because it's going to stop the tantrum or because it's going to, I have to be emotionally able to handle if he's going to have a tantrum, right? Luckily he didn't, but he understood, like, okay, like because the thing is that they also have to see that you have their best interest, even though they may not like it in the long run. It's going to be beneficial for him to see that. Like, I'm glad. You too, Todd, like you've had to make some very tough decisions that were for the betterment of your family. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't think people realize that sometimes, like, it's not about.
But I think I ended up in those positions because I didn't make good decisions either. Sometimes it's like it get you going in, and
hey man, we're not always gonna make good decisions, man.
Yeah. Discipline's interesting with kids, because everybody has a different idea on how much do you explain, how much do you just make it is what it is, like at what point is it I'm the parent because, and it's, some people will say that there needs to be an understanding. It's interesting. I think as long as you're consistent, you're not a dick.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key is you have to be somewhat consistent, and I don't care what way you discipline. I think as long as you make sure you follow through and you're calm about it. And, the misguided part of discipline was back in the day, they were telling you not to spank kids because everybody was angry.
Right.
So it was the anger that was creating the problem. It wasn't the spanking. It was the anger, in my opinion. Yeah. And so people went too far the other way. And I think that backlash we'll see forever. By the way,
well, that also goes to the same thing with correcting dogs too. By the way, because people do it because they're angry. They have that guy in North Carolina. I don't know if you saw those videos. That guy in North Carolina is a dog trainer. He's like a gun dog trainer, and they got him on video like picking up a dog and slamming the dog and stuff like that. And so the guy ended up getting arrested like last week, and got charged with animal cruelty. Crazy. I know you don't like to see that stuff. I don't like to see that stuff either. And so I was gonna send it to you, but like, no, I'm not gonna.
No, yeah, I don't.
You
I
could
don't
just read
like
it.
to
You don't
watch
need to see
something
it.
I can feel they're in pain or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
It's too
So,
weird for me.
yeah, that guy got arrested. It's kind of been all over the internet right now. But that's the thing, that's an angry individual that is acting out and taking out on the dog. So so that happens quite a bit, you know. So, you know, we talk about correcting. It's also, you know, we're just doing it for the best interest of the pack, right? So, you know, for
Well,
the
I just had to. You heard that? It's because this dog. This is what I want to go back to. Is everybody out there that's an owner or a dog trainer? I think you need to make this more of an emphasis if you don't already, when you're working with young dogs, especially, is how owners take shit from the dog. Okay, I think this is creating epidemic level issues with dogs swallowing stuff. Now, just because you may not end up in surgery removing something from your dog, every time your dog swallows something non-food, it affects them. Their body gets inflamed a little bit. It's going to go through their digestive system and affect them a little bit. Little elements of whatever they swallowed, all these different things. So I have been getting epidemic levels of dogs swallowing obsessively everything they can touch on the ground. It's beyond me how bad it seems to have gotten in the last little bit, right? So this dog, his brother, it's a combination of boredom and the way that people are taking stuff from dogs. So do you think people realize when you take everything from a dog, the competitive energy you trigger and what that can do?
Yeah. You know, I, I actually learned that from you about picking up poop. It's the same thing. I never really thought about that. And I mean, even the simple fact of like when I'm picking up poop in the backyard, like how that action could, because I have one dog that every once in a while will eat poop, you know? And so without me realizing, I was like, man, maybe I caused it just by me doing it every day, picking up the poop. You know, I like things to be clean, so I just pick up poop. You know, has that been competitive? Because what I've noticed that she'll do is when a dog's pooping, she'll look over at me and she'll look over at the dog that's pooping, and I'll give her a look like, don't do it. But now it's set up this: if you're not looking, I'm gonna go get it. You know,
Right?
so you're talking about things that are left like we go and we pick it up right away. You know,
Well, no, that, and what I'm talking about is like, so, and I even saw like a post that had millions and millions and millions of views, and everybody was like, yeah, and it was, and the meme was me when my dog picks up something off the ground on a walk, and it was Godzilla and King Kong fighting, and it was, the meme was, this is how I have to grab my dog and fight my dog to get something out of their mouth. That. I don't think people
yeah.
realize how much you're not helping your dog. You are creating the very behavior to obsessive levels that you're trying to stop, because you have created something in your dog that makes unimportant things important enough to keep from you by either possessing them and starting to get aggressive towards you, running away from you and never taking you seriously, or swallowing it to keep it. And it's obsessive level. I mean, crazy level. This morning I'm out on a walk with this dog, and I think I have this dog's issue under control because I closely supervise. I'm not obsessive. I'm not doing it enough. He throws up a hair tie and some other debris that he had fucking swallowed. And it's like, dude, I am seeing so much of that. I have him like 3 days. I let him out in the morning to use the bathroom. And I hear, and it's like, dude, that sounds like a squeaky thing. I go, but I don't have any squeakers. So he comes in and he lays down next to me over here, and he goes to clear his throat, and he goes, it squeaks.
Oh no.
I go, dude, there's no way I fucking heard that. There's no way I heard that. He does it again. He goes, and I go, there's no way that dude because I don't even have any, I don't know where he could have found it. Right. So I'm sitting there for a minute going, what do I do? So he doesn't make that sound again, but I text his mom and I'm like, hey, I have no idea, but it sounds like he has swallowed a toy with a squeaker. I go, or did he maybe potentially get into this before he came to me? Because I'd only had him a couple days. And she goes, no, we don't have any toys with squeakers around. I go, okay. I go, well, I'm just going to watch him and let's see what happens. See if he passes it, or see if anything changes or his behaviors change.
Starts farting.
Right. And nothing. I check his poop. I didn't see anything. And so what I ended up thinking it may have been, which is weirder and even funnier. Do you know what I think he may have done?
No.
Swallowed a frog. Because we have
Wow.
tree frogs. They make the same sound. They make
He's like
the
David
same
Blaine. He's trying to do a David Blaine
sound. And
magic trick. Yeah.
we have a bunch of frogs that are out now. And so it's possibly did that because that's the level that this dog is swallowing things. So what happens is I'll use an e-collar for it. And you got to be careful because you don't want to use the e-collar to be correcting that stuff and necessarily doing other stuff with it. But I'm using it and I bait the ground. And so he just got something I didn't see. But fuck, dude, I'm so over this behavior. I'm so over it in dogs.
Wow.
I had to get that out because I've just been getting a run of it. I'm done. Thank you.
Welcome to my, thank you for listening to my TED Talk.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you guys.
All right. Do you want to watch the next one?
Sure.
Okay. This is this one, I believe. Why is it not
So
playing?
the formula for the last family that I worked with was basically the first thing that I wanted to help them with was the awareness of how they were interacting with their dog and when. So we did the obvious. We did the walk. The walk went really good. I got some video of the walk. We were able to do some get the dog in the car. The dog was super avoidant of getting in the car, was getting sick in the car. And then there was a lot of focus on trying to get them to pay attention to asking the question of how does my dog feel right now before they do anything, especially for the lady so that she could give affection and attention and love at a different time because the constant love at all the wrong times was anchoring that issue. How it goes, we'll see. That appointment, I just did it.
Okay.
Hercules will correct him. Let's see what your guy does. Nothing. Soulless. That's good. Little moments like this are good. Just the tiniest bits of movements for this dog are good. Okay. So he's a pup.
Okay.
Like a very submissive, happy-go-lucky type of pup. Like very soft and sensitive, but very playful. Mm-hmm. And that could be an energy that might be really good because he'll try to throw little play signals out here. And we'll see what he does.
Reggie likes to play with his toys. I got him toys and he just nothing.
Yeah.
Just.
No, it's okay. Dogs don't naturally take a toy and play with it, but some do.
It's funny when you say something and the client says something and you said, oh, it's like very playful. And she says, yeah, but I got toys and he doesn't like to play. It's like kind of irrelevant to what you were trying to say. It's like people hear certain things, but it's not what you were saying. And so that gets me wondering because like I have this one client that I work with who actually moved to Florida, Todd, and I may have you reach out. She may be reaching out to you because I need someone to work with her physically and her dog. Yeah. But every time like we're having a conversation because we've been doing a lot of virtuals, as I'm talking, she'll cut me off. I'm like, I'll say her name. I'm like, please don't cut me off. You're not letting me finish what I need to say. You're already on to the next thing, and she does it all the time. And I really had to get on to her. And she's like, Art, please get on to me. Like, because I know I need this and I need your help. And I was like, yes, you do. And I was like, I don't want you to say anything. I'm about to say, I'll let you know when you can talk. And for me to say something like that, it was starting to bother me already. It was starting to like really get to me. So I was like, look, just let me finish my thought. I need for you to understand what I just said and ask me questions with what I just said so that we can move forward. By the way, so you got that black, is it a poodle, I guess? Or what is that?
Yeah, it's a standard poodle.
And that brown dog is that Chesapeake Bay Retriever, right? The one you've been
Correct.
working with?
That's the one I'm talking about right now that has the swallowing issue.
Okay. So you've had that dog, you've been working with that dog. And so now you bring
I had his brother. And so I got him. Yeah, I got him 2 weeks ago yesterday. So he's way less anxious than his brother. They're both really excited, super excited dogs, sensitive dogs, submissive peers, both of them. The brother had a lot more anxiety. So I had to spend a lot more time getting rid of the anxiety before I could really help the dog. This guy is just excited and really kind of stupid, just dopey, really just kind of dopey. Yeah. So what did you see in the video?
So, I could see that there's a little like happy-go-lucky in there, but avoidant. And again, why did they reach out to you, by the way? Like, what was the
Okay,
thing?
so you were getting that was actually the dog in an, if you want to call it, an upstate. So there was a lady who, I don't know how she came to acquire the dog. She got the dog a couple months ago, maybe, and it just completely shut down. It's just 100% hides in a room. It's terrified of everything, doesn't want to eat. It's the epitome of stuck in flight avoidance. Okay. So she reached out for help and she couldn't use our services because of cost. Then I was like, look, let me talk to you for a minute. And I talked to her online for a couple minutes. I'm like, just come bring the dog here. Just
Good content.
What's that?
Good content.
Yeah, right. I could just bring the dog here because I like working with that type of dog. I like helping people that are extremely motivated, what she was. And when she got here, the dog was just shaking uncontrollably. I actually have a video of that. So she's sitting down, the dog's shaking uncontrollably. And the first thing we did was we got out and did some walking. And then I really I would run with the dog. I did a video on that, did a post on that. If you have a nervous dog, sometimes just run them. And of course, all the geniuses out there, no, dude, you're reinforcing flight. Look, fuckwad, ask a question. I get what you're saying. I might be aware of that. So it's not like I'm running away from something. I'm running just so the dog can run. I'm letting the dog run. And you could actually see it when the dog would run, the tail would come up and then the tail would go back down. And we did a bunch of exercises like those type of things. And by the time we got back inside, what you saw there was the dog had, even the fact that the dog walked over towards me was like huge.
But also when he walked over to Mr. Pickles too.
Very much so. That was the only thing he sniffed, Art. The whole time. Go back and look at that video. That dog's in almost an autistic state. The fact that a dog walks into his backside and sniffs him, and he just stands there like he's invisible. It's almost like he's pretending he can't be seen. There's no emotion coming from that dog if you go watch it again. It's odd.
But I think it's also important that that moment where he smelled Mr. Pickles is something you can build up on.
Yes.
And, because you talked about like the dog is shut down, because I see a dog that's kind of like,
I would bring Mr. Pickles around him more. Yeah, so I would definitely, because he wasn't interested. That was the only dog he smelled. And from an education standpoint for you guys watching this, go back and watch the video and look at the difference in the way that the brown dog and the black dog are in the environment. That brown dog's been in my house a week. That black dog's just gotten into my house. And you can see how one is sniffing and the other one is just standing there using a little bit of eyes. That dog was so glazed over. I actually did some drills to see if it could see when he showed up. It was that kind of glazedness to him. And so you can see there's a little bit of ears and there's a little bit of eyes, but his senses were like, so him sniffing Mr. Pickles is really huge. And I think I might have referenced that. Maybe not the bigness of it. I go, it's really good that he sniffed him and even just stepping towards me. And what I did with that woman, and I posted about it. Now she called me back, so I know that this dog is actually doing really, really good. Is I told her to walk the dog around her house a lot, so that it doesn't associate being inside with being shut down. Right. That it can associate being inside with being in a state of acceptance, moving and just constant, especially when there were sounds that were going to make it worse. And she sent me back stuff. She said the dog is 100% better. It isn't peeing and pooping in the house. It's eating now. It's doing all these different things. And that to me is why I want to offer somebody like that. Yeah. It's, I could just kind of vibe on the woman. She was the right fit. She was the perfect human for this dog.
I agree.
And I want that to work. And, that's, I think, how we pay it forward is I enjoy that. And sometimes I read the email and I look at Jen, I go, maybe I should just stop charging people completely. It's almost better. Feels better.
Yeah. I this dog has a lot of potential. It's already doing better. That's really good. And because again, there's a lot of things that, the total shutdown, you kind of see it, but not in the intensity. That's why I said, she has that happy-go-lucky inside of her. Like it has to come out. And anytime like I'm working with the dog, I'm always looking for that curiosity. So the fact that when she smelled Mr. Pickles, I was like, that's what I'm looking for. That's what you need to have. Like any of those little moments in time, I'm like, I got something to work with. It's when you don't have those stuff. Like, oh man, this is going to be a while. Because you can kind of see like this is going to take a while. when they're not giving you anything.
Absolutely. And that is, it's interesting as you get more into your career, the ability to see what a dog can be, right? By seeing something tiny or just being able to vibe on it. I think this dog can do ABC. But that's the biggest, at the beginning of your career, you're guessing and you don't really get to see the whole thing play out. But
yeah, I worked with a dog today, or actually, well, today, but a couple of days ago. Because my consultation are 2 hours, my in-home consultation are 2 hours long.
Same.
And so when I went in there, I worked with the dog, and it was Texas. It was 4:00 when I was working with the dog, and we had to work outside, but it was just too hot to be working outside. So I worked it for an hour in the shade on grass, and we came back in, and the dog was like, "Okay, I'm done," and just like laid down, was super calm, like everything. And one of the issues that this dog had was like it would get super excited for new people, and I was that new person. And they had put it away in the room when I get there.
What would it do with that excitement?
It jumped and kind of like would claw, and not mouthing. It's just kind of like would jump on them
like that. Like I call it frenetic. It's almost like it's like this weird, desperate neediness.
Yeah, it's just like this anxiety jumping, but it also had some excitement in there too. So I was like, hey, just bring it out on a leash, And so I bring it on a leash and runs, and I grab it, I step on it, and just
You
wait.
stepped on the dog, Art?
Yeah,
I stepped on the dog. Somebody's got video.
I actually sat on the dog. That's actually called sitting on the dog.
Yeah.
So I just stepped on the leash, and try to jump, and all of a sudden just didn't jump anymore and just sat down. I don't make it a big deal, but I'll like touch on the nose. That's something that I learned from Lynn.
Why do you touch the nose?
I don't know. I saw Lynn do it. I mean, but it also it's like a connection piece. It's kind of like it's how I connect, how I reward, how just like I see you, I see what you just did. Something that
I'll reach under and rub their nipples like this.
On, man. Come on. You're just weird. Man, I don't even want to go with that one. I might need to cut that one out. Just kidding. We're gonna leave that one in.
Is that why you did the post with the leash? Because you used it in that appointment for that, and it kind of reminded you of a.
No, because Anne did that post, and she had no idea that I had done that. It just me and Anne are sometimes in sync quite a bit. So then after we were done working outside, we came inside, and the dog just like laid down in the kitchen on the tile and just passed out. And we just had a conversation, and I was like, look, I'm going to come back, but ask me any questions while I'm here, and they asked me questions. And so then we scheduled some time to go today. So Anne and I went this morning because the dog is reactive towards other dogs. And so I was like, look, I want you to do some things before I come back. And so they did. And I showed up today, and they were like, yeah, she's been doing a lot better. She still has some issues. So I was like, all right, let me do this. So Anne shows up with her dog, and she's parked outside, and she's kind of down the block, and they live in a cul-de-sac. And I was like, I love when people live in a cul-de-sac because I can work them out in the cul-de-sac right here. And so I'm out there working, just kind of moving with the dog and, using some leash work with the dog. And then I was going to text Anne like, hey, go ahead and come out when I tell you to come out, but just stay in the car. And I'm working with this dog. And all of a sudden the dog is doing amazing, like connecting, like just starting to look up at me. And again, I start touching as I'm walking and doing all these other things. And then the dog flips out, like goes into flight. And
towards you?
Yeah, trying to go away from me, right? Trying to run back towards the house. And I was like, what just happened? And they're like, I think the bug zapper across the street freaked her out.
Right when you pet her?
No.
Okay,
right
so she wasn't flying. She wasn't flying from you. She was flying from that. That would have sucked though if you would have done that. If she would have done that when you were petting her.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, we got to recover this. So I got like a movement is everything for me, like how I move, and so because we allow the dog to flight, we basically reinforce that. Just get her to move. Like movement is so kind of shake it off. And she was struggling, but she started to do it. And just as she started getting a good. And I did it again. I was like, I wish there was a way we could kind of control that, but sometimes you just can't. But I said, wait a minute, your dog's reactive. Let me use this moment to bring the dog out now.
Nice.
And let's now create that imprint. So I said, I called and I was like, come out right now. I don't care how fast, how slow it is. Just come out and go to that mailbox right there. And as soon as
you went and had her go to the mailbox, buy the zappy thing?
Yes. No, actually not right towards it because I felt that it was going to be too much. I was trying to find a balance. I had to go a little bit to the side.
Got it.
Initially, I told her to go to that mailbox where it was in front of the house, but I said, now go to the next mailbox over. And so I did. And so the dog was like, I really want to move forward, but I'm kind of scared about that sound that could happen, you know? And I was like, please, Zapper, do not happen again. I was like taking my chances. And so we worked it. And the owner's like, I can't believe she's not reacting. I was like, yeah, because she's sound sensitive to that, but I'm creating an imprint right now. I was like, all right, let's get away from this. Let's go on a walk together. So we all, and had our dog, Nala, and I walked our dog. I walked their dog, and we just started walking. And then we went to the end of the block, stopped in the shade, and we stopped. And the dog's just sitting there, and she was just like relaxed. And I was like, this is what we're trying to create. And they're like, she's never done this before. Oh my God. You know, at this point, they're like, what do we need to do? Like, how can we recreate this more? What can we do? So now that they see the possibility and what's possible.
How did you encourage? Hey, you know, they make a tool that makes that exact same sound.
Yeah, but that's used for dogs.
4 dogs, yeah, dude.
Yeah, it's called Doggy Don't, I think it's called.
Well, I mean, I've heard there's different ones, but I mean, a stun gun would work for them, obviously.
Yeah.
So I mean, if they just made that sound and just make sure that they're not, you know, over.
Yeah, the only thing if in that situation, it would be overwhelming for the dog.
Well, the thing about using it in a tool though is you could just literally make it like a nick of an e-collar. Just the you know what I'm saying? Just enough to make that happen. And then the thing I'd like about it is it would allow you to go immediately more into the reinforcement, like what you did, going into like, now you're here. Let's just go ahead and let you realize you're safe. You can do this. All of that reactivity was, you know what I mean? And so does the dog seem social? Was the dog social or just reactive?
Really social. And that's the another thing I was trying to, I mean, I knew this from Ryan when I met the dog. Your dog's gonna be so social. Like it's reactive, excited, but it's a social dog. Like it's not, you know, it's not an aggressive dog. And that's what they were kind of worried about because, now the other thing is that they used to have an aggressive dog. So they're fearful of that. They live with that fear. But I want to go back to that bug zapper because the bug zapper was so faint. You could barely hear it. And I could hear it, but it was like it was so small, like, and it wasn't like loud at all. So I've seen those doggy don'ts. I had one because I was always curious about these things, you know?
Yeah.
Or I'd use it like, I used to live in the hood and, you know, dogs on the side of the fences and whatever. Yeah. But that thing is really like just one little tap. It's like really loud. And I think it would overwhelm this dog, but you can find another sound that is not as intense, that can have the dogs mentally not go into a fight state, but into a more, not flight either, but just move the mind backwards, you know? And that's exactly what happens. The mind moved backwards. I seize that opportunity to say, when you see another dog, you don't need to move towards it. Let's create a whole new imprint.
That's interesting that, you know, at the beginning, I didn't really understand that concept at all. You know, you're not even remotely familiar with that, but I think one of the things that Caesar brought to the table is the ability to reduce energy in weird ways, whatever will reduce the dog's energy, especially if you have a dog that wants to attack and you can make them nervous for a moment, we can really capture that and make use of that in some ways. You know, understanding that balancing act of how to bring a dog's energy to the right spot before you teach them a correction and all of that that nuance is, don't know if I would have gotten on my own.
Yeah. And by the way, I actually watched an episode of, or 2 episodes of Better Human, Better Dog. And as you know,
what's that?
It's Caesar's show. And what's that exactly? Because that's kind of like, that's Todd's joke with Caesar, like that Todd's never watched any of his episodes. But I don't, when they come out, I really don't watch them. I just watch them because I knew JoJo was on this one. So I kind of wanted to see. And it was that dog. Remember that dog Tricky, the one we had at the ranch?
Yep.
Not the pity, the other one, the really excited one.
Yeah. The one they brought up on stage and he
woo! Yeah, that one. Yeah. So he actually it's a 2-part episode with that dog Tricky and the dog that they lived with. And it was really cool because what Caesar did, I was like, this is like, of course, like it's so simple but yet so effective. He was talking about how these dogs, and he's like, both dogs were with him and they were getting tense around each other, and he was like, you know, they're tense. I got to get rid of this tension because even though I'm here and they know that I'm going to stop it, but we have to figure out how they can associate I'm going with you guys. I'm almost done. Yeah. Yeah. Come here.
What's up, buddy? Look at that hair.
Yeah,
Look at that hair. Those cheeks. Who else is over there? There he is. What's up? Can you say hi?
All right. Give me 5 minutes and we gotta go jiu-jitsu class. So, all right, let me Like, we're gonna finish this. I'm gonna start with you guys here, all right? So basically, what he did is he got them in the swimming pool together, so they couldn't go after each other, and it's almost like create movement as they're swimming. So he created this like happy-go-lucky with amongst each other, but not competitive. Like, don't use a ball because it could be too competitive, because that's something they could fight. So we got them in the pool so they could practice being happy-go-lucky together in the pool.
Yeah.
And then he gets them out, and he even said, he's like, when I get them out, my expectation is that they're going to be happy-go-lucky. And they started playing, and they had never done that before.
You're kidding.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Dude, that's so the way to carry infection over. How can I create this and infect it over here? Yeah, that's really
it's
cool.
really cool. All right, well, I think I should get going because all right, talk to you later. Bye. Bye.